Welcome back, League fans, to special coverage of a series that was played out yesterday with Delta Fox going up against Tempo Storm. So let's just hop right into the picks and bans for game number 1, which will pop up right on the bottom of the screen this time around. So as you can see, so far, Delta Fox going to be on the blue side, Tempo Storm going to be over on the red side, but nothing all super crazy, although we are going to see Voyboy taking the Lucian into the mid lane this game.
Yeah, I think that's the first time we've seen him on it. The double AD carry composition. They round things out with the Rumble to bring in some magic damage. They don't have a ton of frontline in CC, but you can have some pretty nice combination potential with the Warwick ultimate locking someone down, the Rumble equalizer laid on top. On the side of Tempo Storm, you have a relatively, standard team comp overall. You don't get much more standard than Orianna, Caitlyn, Rek'Sai, and Galio. A lot of power picks given over here on the side of Delta Fox.
Yeah, but not only just a very overall powerful composition, but still there's double ball delivery systems. There's a huge amount of AoE damage. Just a very overall powerful team fight composition. Whereas Delta Fox, they're a little bit more scrappy as long as as far as their picks. They're the double marksman kind of composition, as well as the fact that their kind of play style is the fact they don't like grouping up for these team fights. They try to win their lane and try to get advantages that way.
Right, they're a team that has kind of made their name trying to get early game advantages. So obviously that's what their team comp's a little bit more geared towards. On the side of Tempo Storm, though, they are not a team that's particularly known for playing super standard. Quas has a lot of weird picks in the top lane. Here on Galio, a little bit more normal. Even to an extent, Reven has played things like Jace in the bot lane. Here on Caitlyn, something that they had banned away a fair amount in their matchup. So looks like Delta Fox's strategy, if it was handed by the analysts to them, they were probably looking like they were trying to give Tempo Storm some very strong standard picks that they don't think that they'll use too well.
Damn, Mark, you should maybe work for a team or something like that.
I don't know. I just,
Did you think you used to?
At one point, but this is more reading what I think this team's going for,
That's why we're glad to have you here on the Challenger Series broadcast, Mark, to bring that kind of insider information and insight into it. But Delta Fox, of course, they're eliminated from the Challenger Series, but they're playing for the Team Gate style. They're playing for pride. They're trying to get their one match win in the Challenger Series. Of course, this game was played yesterday, so it could be this game or it could be the game they play today against Goldcoin United. We'll have to wait and see if they are able to find that one. Tempo Storm themselves, though, pretty much solidified almost in 3rd place. There is the potential that they could kind of get into a tie situation against Goldcoin United if Delta Fox beat them today. Of course, we don't know the results of that matchup quite yet, but Tempo Storm would need to win this game and then win again in order to do so.
Right, and on the side of Delta Fox, like you said, it's their swan song. This is the last time they're going to get broadcast knocked out of the playoffs already. Trying to go out with a bang, and nothing's more fun than ruining someone else's day. When your day's already ruined, you know what the best medicine is just bringing someone else down to your level.
Is it Warwick jungle? Is that the best way to bring someone down to your level? Normally, I would do something a little bit more fun in that case.
What's more fun than lockdown suppression?
Anything? I mean, I'm an AD carry player, so anything.
I like right-clicking minions.
I really enjoy right-clicking minions. It's so therapeutic and so much fun. I mean, Team Gates, they had their swan song. They had Alorum on their team. He played the Wukong top lane. He got first blood and then died 8 times.
True. This time around, though, you want to see, for the side of the Tempo Storm, if you can get control of the mid lane matchup, that's going to be really important. As you see, Voyboy already hopping in, forcing that heal out for almost free. Goes with the Ignite. Not actually going to flash in for any kind of follow-up. Seems like his cooldowns are probably still down pretty early on in the game, only level 2. But that's the thing. Selfie is such an important member on the side of Team Tempo Storm. A lot of their victories come off the back of his advantages. And this time around, in a disadvantageous matchup, Lucian generally beats Orianna pretty handily. And there's a point where Orianna, if she's even, can get ahead of the Lucian, but you should already be held down by then. So Tempo Storm, understandably, want to target this lane. You see Wiggily already coming in.
Yeah, so Wiggily coming in. The dissonance winds up landing, as is the Prey Seeker, but Scarra showed up just to support his mid lane Voyboy, so there will be no chase given forth. Ooh, actually, a hook winds up landing down onto Sheep. Still only level 1 from the side of Tempo Storm.
Good play there on the side of Wiggily, staying burrowed, knows that he sees the Tremor Sense of Scarra on the other side of that brush, does not want to chase in there. One thing we haven't talked about yet is Blitzcrank in the bot lane for Shiptur. You look at Delta Fox's games where they look like they might win, and even the ones that they did, it was a huge effort out of Shiptur, a big playmaker for this team this time around in the Ballista bot lane.
Oh yeah, that's true. We'll see if they wind up getting any of those interesting pulls down. I almost forgot about that synergy, so that is actually kind of fun.
Yeah, it's nice to see them putting Shiptur in a position to potentially make a lot of plays. This time around, moving in.
Getting aggressive here. Actually, Scarra has joined the fray as well, so trying to deny Wiggily this blue buff. We'll see actually the hook winds up landing there, and they smite it away. will wind up going over to the side of Scarra, it looks like.
I think Cutie Pie actually was able to grab that one.
He does. He's got a blue buff.
Yeah, a little early on the smite, but overall a nice idea of what the Blitzcrank can do. I think a lot of people, they tunnel so hard on what Blitzcrank does in terms of killing someone with a cheesy hook and, you know, the annoying level 1 invades that you see in solo queue. But in competitive play, he does have a lot of value there. You know, going for that buff invade as a coordinated team effort, actually being able to pull that away and secure it for free. Pretty useful. If you are Tempo Storm, though, it's not the end of the world. You're playing Rek'Sai, not mana dependent at all. And it's just unfortunate that you lose that little bit of XP, but you're going to keep on just fine.
Yep. Of course, it is a little bit annoying if you're Reven on the bottom side of the map. He was extremely confident last time they went up against Delta Fox. He even put his hair on the line against Cutie Pie. It's actually a flash followed by a flash up there from Wiggily and first blood going over against Voyboy in the mid lane.
We talked about the attention that we were expecting to see out of the mid lane for Tempo Storm. Second gank attempt. This time it pays off. Voyboy was playing down to that bot side. Wiggily was known to be down there, but you don't know if he's going to recall or what. So a little bit out of position on Voy's side, trying to play aggressive into the lane, dashes in, and that's pretty much the obvious go sign for the side of Tempo Storm. The flash follow, knock up, that true damage execute coming in from Wiggily. Pretty big chunk when you're able to get to max fury.
Hey, it's okay if you lose your blue buff, you're able to pick up first blood off the back of it. Now Dyrus looks like he might be in a bit of a sticky situation, but Quas and Wiggily just a little bit too far away to wind up getting a kill down on the Dyrus, so he will just harpoon himself out of there.
And even though you would think that Rumble is a bad matchup into Galio, just when you think about their archetypes a little bit, where Galio is the magic damage tank. He wants to go into someone who's going to be primarily magic damage and use that shield to mitigate that and build a bunch of MR, which scales with his abilities. It is still a case where Rumble just early on is able to use his shield to block some of the Galio damage and then find favorable trades afterwards. So still obviously not a great matchup for the Rumble, but not as bad as you might think by initially just saying what Galio's kit is supposed to do.
Yeah, well, Rumble has always been pretty decent into most tank matchups to begin with, just based off the fact that he has the persistent flame spitter damage, and if you're a tank, you're usually melee, so you got to walk up right into the fray, right into the fire, and try to get the CS for yourself. So Dyrus already 49-35 in the CS advantage here on the top side of the map. Bottom side of the map going in Cutie Pie's favor because you got that blue buff steal early on, so he didn't have to worry necessarily about how many Rens he was going to be using on minions, or even just if he was going to be able to get the refund on that by resetting the cooldown on the E or not. And Shiptur being continuously annoying with those Blitzcrank hooks, things in Delta Fox's favor so far in the early stages of the game, save for the mid lane, of course, because First Blood did wind up going to Tempo Storm.
It is a very strange game already, given the fact that you would think Delta Fox would be controlling the mid lane, have a potentially a little bit of a tough matchup in the bot side with Caitlyn having the range advantage versus Kalista, though they do have kind of the all-in threat with the Blitzcrank hook. And then the top side, you would think mostly even farming, but Delta Fox side lanes winning a little bit harder than you would initially expect, and the mid lane losing. So a little bit different of a game than you would expect, but then again, that's kind of how Delta Fox games go. They're pretty crazy overall.
Well, I think it was one Cutie Pie who said, if you don't know what you're doing, how is the opposing team supposed to know what you're doing? So potentially executing that strategy to full effect here as we continue to see Shiptur invading down into Wiggly's jungle. Trying to look for a bit of a hook onto the Gromp, but Wiggily going to be A-okay at microing himself in front of that to block any sort of Blitzcrank hook shenanigans. Instead, Shiptur just going to get a couple of wards down in the enemy jungle, try to figure out where Wiggly's going to go afterwards. Scarra, in the meantime, utilizing a blast cone in his own jungle. Just kind of close the gap to get himself to the other side of the jungle. Don't think he's really trying to wrap around onto, Selfie. Getting a command shockwave down, chunks out both members of Delta Fox and says, all right, bring it on.
I'm not quite sure what the Voyboy and Scarra's communication was there. Scarra seemed like he desperately wanted to get down to the bot side for some reason, but they already knew where Rek'Sai was, and they're weaker around mid, not level 6 yet on the side of Scarra, just hit it now. I guess they were trying to set up a bot dive, potentially with the teleport advantage.
Ooh. Gonna get canceled there. Quas with the Justice Punch and a taunt afterwards, but Dyrus making him pay for that one. Actually, Equalizer leveled up here. He's gonna have to burn the flash. A flash to follow with Dyrus trying to barbecue Quas. Will get a kill for that.
All right, so Delta Fox had actually gotten some of their advantage in the top side, had not realized that. They were trying to go for that dive. Scarra was just pathing kind of greedily to get through there. A nice play by Selfie to cut that off, but Delta Fox still snowballing in these side lanes.
A good hook and an ignite afterwards forces the flash out from Reven. Delta Fox, early game here, looking pretty solid, making some moves, making things happen. The mid lane still going solidly in favor of Tempo Storm. These side lanes here for Delta Fox, specifically the top lane. Normally Dyrus is one getting camped down extremely hard and dying a lot, as Dyrus has been known to do, is actually now getting jumped on by Wiggily, and even though he was able to pick up a kill on the Quas, they wind up paying for it as Wiggily solos Dyrus. Never mind, bot side's doing good though.
Reality modeling art or something is a saying, I believe, and this time around, Tom's words coming true, a bit of a prophecy there.
Sarcastic curse. That's basically what it is. And now Selfie getting ignited extremely early on. Voyboy almost full channel the culling with a flash and a knock-up, but the ultimate coming out from Warwick is going to lock down Rek'Sai, but now Scarra kind of left on his lonesome, flashes over the wall, but Wiggily unburrows and goes on a killing spree. Voyboy couldn't close the gap. His health bar too low. Flash forward from Selfie secures a kill. Tempo Storm 4-1.
A disastrous 2v2 in the mid lane on the side of Delta Fox. They were almost able to get that counter gank in their favor, but not quite enough damage. Boy has to flash out. Wiggily does as well. Scarra goes for the trade kill, hoping to get a 1-for-1, but ends up going down as well. And with that, Tempo Storm actually group up mid lane, grab that mid turret for the first turret of the game as well. Now up to a 2,000 gold lead off the back of some mid lane skirmishing.
Yeah, even though Delta Fox tried very hard to get that bot lane tower, they weren't successful to do so. And Tempo Storm pathing down towards that bottom side. Delta Fox knows they can't successfully take down that tower without potentially being collapsed on. The Infernal Drake is what is in the sight for Tempo Storm. So they get themselves first tower, they get 2 kills, they get an Infernal Drake, and suddenly everything's swung back in Tempo Storm's favor.
Huge mistake, as there we actually see Shiptur land a hook onto Sheep. Sheep hops the wall right back over. Cute little interaction there. I think he actually hooked him out of the blast cone as well because he had used that right before that. Either way, Tempo Storm in a very commanding position now. We talked about the mid lane being the most volatile, most likely. They've gotten complete control of that one. As you see, Boy tries to kick this fight off with Scarra coming in on the other side. Selfie kites up to his jungler. It forces Scarra to use his ultimate on Wiggily, who is frontlining. And then the Orianna able to provide some shielding and protection for Wiggily. And then the Unburrow getting the kill as well. Ends up going in their favor. Delta Fox, though, we talk about this bot lane doing pretty well. A huge CS lead, as well as being able to grab the first turret, or the second turret of the game, first of their own.
Yeah, and while Delta Fox have had their struggles in the Challenger Series, so that's putting it lightly because they have yet to win an actual match, the individual players have pretty much leveled up in specific positions. We've seen Dyrus have like games where he is specifically always on or always off, but the bottom lane has really kind of leveled themselves up. Of course, you can watch QT5 stream pretty much all day, every day. We've been duo queuing with Shiptur. They've been working on that synergy a little bit, and what you may say about solo queue transferring over to competitive play, these two specifically have kind of been a bit of a backbone for Delta Fox. If they're winning games, the few that they have, or they're getting advantages, usually through the synergy the two of them have built up.
I think you can definitely say that Shiptur has kind of stood out as a member who can make things happen in any game, especially when we saw that Bard pick, a champion with a lot more playmaking available. And the game that they did win was off the back of QT having a monster performance. A good start for this bot lane again. The gold lead has gone down to 1,000 with them grabbing that turret, so it's definitely not over. The big problem that you see is that Lucian, over the course of a game, tends to have difficulty getting involved in the team fight when Tempo Storm has 2 really strong backline threats in Orianna and Caitlyn, and then 3 frontline members with the Rek'Sai, the Galio, and the Braum. So it's going to be the kind of thing where he's probably going to be hitting frontline a lot, and that might not be what he wants to do. The one saving grace, of course, is that ballista combination. Maybe you can hook out one of those important backline members to just instantly win a fight by blowing them up.
Yep, the Kalista pick, of course, is going to be normally building a Blade of the Rune Key. It's actually Shiptur. Just out of nowhere, hooks in Reven from that one. Has to use the blast gun to get out of there as Tempo Storm. You might not even need the ballista combination if Shiptur's going to make plays like that out of nowhere.
I mean, yeah, you talk about this guy's playmaking. He roughly knew where he was. They had vision on the right and left side, just a little sliver in the middle that was blind, predicts where Reven's going to be, hooks him out. Unfortunately, they're not able to find a kill there, but they chunk him out pretty low, and now they're going to go for the all-in.
Ooh, the flash knockup coming in as well. The hook to follow, and QT picks up a kill onto Reven. He's exhausted and hopping forward. It's not going to be able to follow down onto Sheep, but a nice kill picked up by Delta Fox. Bottom side of the map, though, Dyrus going toe-to-toe with Quas, getting a little bit of the worst of that trade, but Delta Fox pick up a kill.
The CS leads continue to grow in the bot and top lane, now flipped onto either side, but still really nice play. They know where the jungler is. Dyrus is free to push up in this bot side now. Doesn't need to worry about that gank setup that can come in from the Galio, and in the meantime, the bot lane continues to pressure hard around this top side turret.
Yep, they hook down into Sheep once again, full of spears, but no Ren coming out from QT quite yet. Scarra's kind of shown up to support his duo cast in the top side of the map, while Dyrus Actually gonna get jumped on here by Quas coming out of the brush. The taunt lands. Quas is very low on mana, so Dyrus will be A-okay to trade back down on this one. As you mentioned, Galio now with the Spectre's Cowl. Not gonna be taking a lot of damage from that Rumble Flame Spitter, as he has Merc Treads for himself, but only a Haunting Guise in addition to that.
Still needs to be careful though, as Orianna with that pressure in the mid lane and that turret already down does have a roam available onto Dyrus. Lands the slow, flashes the Orianna Shockwave, make sure he doesn't get pulled in there. Is able to live, but loses a summoner.
So Dyrus being able to make it out of there A-okay for now. Down the flash. Scarra starting up the Rift Herald, gets it to about half HP, but Wiggily shows up and forces him away with some help from Sheep. Tempo Storm, however, not quite as interested in that objective as Delta Fox was, and instead decided to back up towards the top side of the map where Reven's Caitlyn going to be trying to push down onto this top outer tower, which would be the second tower of the game for Tempo Storm.
Unable to get much pressure going though. Both the side lane turrets on the side of Delta Fox relatively healthy. Selfie, despite that big lead he got early game, we saw his first roam attempt really right there going down to the bot side, only gets a flash. They should really look for an opportunity to spill this over a little bit more. You look at that top side play that Delta Fox went for. If Selfie is really trying to abuse his matchup as hard as he can, he should be moving around the map to set up a couple more plays with the rest of his team. And that's kind of one of the things you can say about Selfie that is pretty different, is that he is a much larger resource hog in a sense, not to put that in a negative way because he is a huge focal point. That's where their advantage comes from, is the fact that he brought the jungler to him multiple times. But his roaming this game, not as impressive as you might want it to be. So to be fair, his side lanes have not been doing a great job in their 1v1 matchups.
Yeah, also maybe a factor of the pick and ban phase. You mentioned that Delta Fox may be trying to put Tempo Storm more traditional kind of team fight picks and mitigate some of those strengths that they do have, which is normally the weirdness of Quas's picks and the ability for Selfie to play assassins and mobile style champions like the Talia coming out from the mid lane. Put him on the Orianna, slouch at roam, he doesn't have the same kind of impact. Instead, it looks like Tempo Storm going to be focusing down on that objective of the Rift Herald. Wiggily picks that one up for himself. Guess they decided to go for that after all.
Selfie does play basically everything, to be fair. We've seen him on Kassadin's. We've seen him on the Oriannas before. We've seen him on Cassiopeia's. He seems to have everything in his wheelhouse. It's just that right now it feels like Tempo Storm's side lanes need a little bit more help, and haven't seen too much of the Orianna. But once again, it looks like Quas is trying to open up onto Dyrus with Selfie moving into support.
Scuttle Crab has been taken by Delta Fox. They know that Selfie's coming. This time around, he has not only the command Shockwave, but his flash available. Dyrus going to try to cut this off the path with the Equalizer, but a flash taunt lands from Quas. Selfie puts the command protect down to Quas. Does wind up using the Shockwave after all. Dyrus overheated. Will finally wind up going down, but it does buy enough time for Delta Fox to take that outer tower on the top side of the map.
It's nice to keep roaming down and finding kills on the Dyrus, but because Dyrus always has the wave all the way pushed up, this is the importance of pressure. There's nothing to actually grab down on that bot side. There's no minion wave to use to actually push in. So during this whole time, Delta Fox instead pressures the flip side of the map, takes that turret for free because they have pressure around there. And now Tempo Storm looks like they want to go, but they're getting caught out.
Ooh, Wiggily wants it going in, delivers the Galio's Hero's Entrance, knocks up multiple members of Delta Fox, but Wiggly's already pretty much out of the fight. The Braum comes in, tries to knock everybody else up. They got the damage down on Scarra, but Voyboy's going to wind up shutting down the Rek'Sai. Another kill gets through as Imaqtpie on the backside picked up a kill onto Reven's Caitlyn, and Delta Fox find themselves the victors in a 2-for-0.
A 4v4 fight in the top side, but the big thing is Selfie, we were just saying, is the big fed member on the side of Tempo Storm. Nowhere to be found in that fight because he just made a roam play down the bot side of the map. So they take an even strength fight for the most part that Delta Fox is able to win, now grabbing the gold lead back for themselves.
Now we see Imaqtpie and Shiptur having to turn tail and run on this top side, trying to push it out ever so slightly before getting a recall off. And a small gold advantage in favor of Delta Fox. This is the play where Wiggily, don't know if he was actually going for an engage on them, but he saw them clearing out that ward.
I think he wanted to go deliver the Galio ultimate on top of them, but he's not that tanky, gets focused down, dropped extremely low, and then Reven, once again hooked out by Shiptur, gets focused down very well by Imaqtpie there, focusing on the right target. Voyboy was also able to get involved in this fight, find a kill. And a nice advantage on the side of Delta Fox. That's what we're saying. Selfie, despite having another nice roam on the overextended Dyrus, the one thing you can say is as long as Dyrus is CSing well, keeping the lane pushed up, and not losing many objectives, it really doesn't matter if he goes down there if his team's able to force on the other side of the map.
Yeah, we had double tier 2 boots, double Blades of the Rune King completed on the double marksmans coming out from Delta Fox. They had a decent amount of power in that fight for themselves. As you mentioned, without Selfie there to provide the damage for the side of Tempo Storm, it was an even numbers fight that Delta Fox was actually slightly advantaged in. So now Delta Fox take that slight advantage from the fight, convert it to about a 1,000 gold lead here. So we're about the 18-minute mark of this game. 2 towers in their favor compared to Tempo Storm's only 1. And some of the things that Delta Fox has struggled with, you know, coming out of the lane phase with the advantages that they try to get by just being very strong mechanical players, having the early game coordination kind of respond to movements that the opponents are making on the map. More importantly, objective control have been shored up ever so slightly in this one. They're not leaps and bounds ahead as the Rift Herald was used on the bottom side to take that tower and even things up, but they're not bleeding out like they were in some of their other games.
They are still down a Dragon, though, unfortunately. They did lose the Rift Herald. They just lost their turret. They're losing their second Dragon in the game. So still, obviously, some issues, as you would expect from the team that has not been able to coordinate as well. Obviously, they have other priorities for themselves, being very popular streamers. The one thing that they have always lacked during their time in the Challenger Series so far is those kind of team-coordinated plays. But this time around, individually all playing very well for the most part. Voyboy, despite some of those early deficits he took, he is still at a big CS loss, but he has stabilized for the most part, hasn't continued dying. His mid lane turret at the inner position is still relatively healthy. So despite a rough early game for him, has really bounced back.
And you mentioned some of these mechanical strengths or individual strengths from the team Delta Fox has. Imaqtpie was actually able to survive through a command shockwave flash that Selfie had used before, so he has no flash available despite though the shockwave is back up, and that's going to be utilized there. But Dyrus picks up a kill with the Eagle Eye to start this off. The Galio's Hero's Entrance is used, but this is going to be a massacre in favor of Delta Fox, just obliterating Tempo Storm. It's a 4 for none.
There you see a huge team fight victory for Delta Fox, once again off the back of Shiptur. We talk about how hard it would be for Delta Fox, potentially the team fight, if they're not able to instantly pull a backline member. Well, they execute on that. They're able to grab right away onto Selfie, pull him in, blow him up through the Galio ultimate, not actually able to keep him alive. And it was a little early when they won that fight, around 1945. They just wait for the Baron to spawn, and now they're going to force it down as the rest of Tempo Storm is just now respawning.
Double Blade of the Rune King here. That's going to be a Kalista on top of the Smite, and that's going to be Delta Fox taking basically a 20-minute Baron. Mark, what'd you feed these guys?
I didn't do anything. I mean, it'd be ridiculous for me to try and take credit for this one. They're really actually just playing well, given the opportunities. You said that, you know, there's no flash down. They identify that he's a key target. You see Shiptur go for that flash engage. They grab him, burst him through the Galio ultimate. A lot of damage available with the Lucian. The Rumble was already there, and the team fight did not need to teleport in. And then they just melt down the targets one at a time. I mean, once you deal with some of those backline threats, there's really not much to deal with. Caitlyn was not grouped up. It's very easy to finish off those tanks with those Blade of the Rune Kings, like you said. And with that Baron buff now, they could potentially keep trying to keep this pressure up. We saw already that Dyrus was able to constantly push Quas in. We saw the bot lane was constantly pushing. The one person who wasn't able to get that push advantage was Voyboy. But now with this Baron buff and a huge influx of gold, much more even in his counterpart, Selfie's still a small lead.
All right, so Delta Fox, survive early game, check. Get some objectives for yourself. Check. Now you got yourself a Baron buff. Check. Now you have to figure out how do you transition this into a victory, because Delta Fox early game has been the point where they look pretty solid. Late game decision making is where they really fall apart. Late game objective control is where they really fall apart. They got one of those things now with a Baron buff, but are they going to be able to execute effectively with Dyrus split pushing? Are they going to be able to utilize the teleport play? Are they going to be able to group up and take this bottom tower? Well, that one's answered right there as Shiptur picks up the kill on that.
Yeah, I mean, that one looked pretty easy. It didn't seem like Tempo Storm was really in a position to contest it. I mean, we talk about maybe some of the difficulties that this team has in late game objective control and things like that. They do have a really strong team comp for that. If you're worried about being able to correctly start off a Baron and turn off and all that stuff, well, Kalista is the perfect tool for that. If you want to stay on the Baron and finish it, she has the huge Ren damage. If you want to turn off the Baron, use her ultimate, throw that Blitzcrank at somebody and pull them into your team comp, and then have the follow-up that comes in with the potential ultimate out of Warwick or Rumble. And so, you know, they have some really nice tools to kind of band-aid some communication issues by just having easy initiation.
Yeah, and that, of course, goes back to the synergy that Shiptur and Imaqtpie have built up on the bottom side. If they're going to be the ones that have to make those decisions, they're going to need to be on the same page with it, and so far they've looked like they've communicated that quite effectively. Shiptur 0-0-6, Imaqtpie 3-0-3. They've been a part of all of each other's kills at this point in time. So really good stuff coming out from the bottom lane duo here from Delta Fox. They picked themselves up another tower, the outer tower in the mid lane. So all the outer towers are down, double towers down on the bottom side of the map, 8 kills to 5, 4 towers to 2. They find themselves now at about a a little less than a 5,000 gold advantage with this Baron buff, still 45 seconds on it. They're in a pretty solid position to control this game. And you mentioned the communication issues kind of being band-aided up with some of these champions that they picked up right now. The gold lead is going to help cushion that a little bit as well, especially considering that the people who are going to have to do the heavy lifting on the communication are the ones that are that much further ahead as their opponents on Tempo Storm. Delta Fox might be in a good position to maybe steal one away from another top team. They've taken a game off of GCU. They've taken a game off of E United. They take a game off of Tempo Storm. They've taken games off of all the top 3 teams. They're basically the best team in Challenger, right?
Yeah, we'll go with that. I think one of the things for the side of Delta Fox is that they still have to be a little bit careful. We talk about all these easy initiation tools. Well, you're initiating into a Galio, Braum, Orianna.
Right.
So they have a ton of counter engage available. If you pull up one of these engages, you're going to be in a world of hurt. While it's nice that they have this gold lead at around 5,000, and that gives you a really large buffer, you still have to be clean with your initiation because Caitlyn Orianna is one of those teams that we talk about being so hard to close out on, as well as the fact that they scale super well into the late game. So Delta Fox needs to keep their aggression up here. They're in this little bit of a 3-1, or excuse me, 4-1 or 1-3-1, depending on where Dyrus is on the map. And maybe they can just kind of keep this team comp spread out, excuse me. That is something that they can do well because Tempo Storm, with their team comp, they want to group as 5 and force team fights, but Delta Fox doesn't necessarily need to do that.
No, and with the Baron buff now having expired on the side of Delta Fox, they may not be looking to group up for quite some time again until the next objective spawns on the map. There's an Ocean Drake that's going to be available in about 10 seconds. The Baron won't be available for a couple of minutes, and it looks like the Tempo Storm is going to be trying to get something done, locking down on the Dyrus, trying to make sure he doesn't move whatsoever. The Equalizer is down, they're fighting on top. It's not going to be dealing a ton of damage. Dyrus goes golden with the Zanya's Hourglass. He will eventually fall, but that's because Delta Fox on the bottom side of the map are deleting Reven, who was the only line of defense against this inhibitor tower.
I mean, that's the thing we're saying that you need out of Delta Fox right now is, split them up. If they overcommit to dealing with one of your 1-3-1, go and punish the other side. And we talk about the easy initiation tools, sometimes potentially being over-punished. Well, all 3 tanks are up in the top side. Reven is completely exposed in the bot side. They find a kill onto him, and now Tempo Storm wants to punish this greed, but it's not quite working.
No, and Delta Fox at the same time are taking down an inhibitor, and all of a sudden Braum goes down. The command shockwave gets used, but it's basically just going to help Voyboy get out of that one. Delta Fox off the back of a Dyrus death find themselves a tower and an inhibitor.
Huge play there out of Tempo Storm. We talk about how they keep attacking Dyrus, but that just opens up the other side of the map to get exploited. What happened, I'm pretty sure, given the fact that Imaqtpie's ultimate was already on cooldown, was they just picked up the Blitzcrank, throw it at the Caitlyn, and pick her up and kill her. And if she can't wave clear then, and even if you kind of miss that initiation, you focus down the turret. We will take another look at this play. You see it right away. Caitlyn trying to, she flashes away, nets the straight line. Nice hook by Shiptur, and they're able to get that easy kill, knowing that they can brute force that so hard because that potential punish on an over-initiation is all up in the top side.
Yep, now about 5,500 gold in favor of Delta Fox. They got super minions pushing down on the bottom side of the map. And there's going to be a Baron coming up in about a minute or so. So Delta Fox, they can play the map around so far, going to be able to get themselves vision control over this Baron pit area. But the side of Tempo Storm, this is a bit of the opposite story of like Goldcoin United is currently in second place, and Tempo Storm are looking like they may wind up playing them in the playoffs no matter what, because we have Big God's Jackals locked into 4th place. You have E United locked in the 1st place. So you know that Goldcoin United and Tempo Storm, no matter how they end 2 or 3, are going to play against each other in the semifinals of the playoffs. There have been different trends here. Goldcoin United started out slow and have really picked up steam, even taking the match against E United, who is undefeated. Tempo Storm, the opposite side, though, started off neck and neck with E United, but have dropped consecutive matches now. And here against Delta Fox, it looks like utilizing what is a very strong team fight composition, they're unable to execute right now.
Oh, hold on. Getting caught out of position, hooked in. Sheep dropped down low. 10 seconds on Baron. Going to be hard to contest vision. With the Orianna shockwave as well. Now Delta Fox has a lot of opportunity to force down this Baron. They have a ton of damage onto it, ton of engage tools. And they're going to try and get vision control most likely. Or maybe they'll just keep splitting them up. They rotate up to the top side after cutting them off. And it looks like Imaqtpie is going to be able to grab another turret this game.
Yeah, so it's going to be a top tier 2 now going in favor of Delta Fox. And it's just kind of like a bunch of small mistakes and a bunch of itchy trigger fingers on the side of Tempo Storm. They're just not on the same page with this kind of composition. And Delta Fox, as you mentioned, pushing them, pulling them apart now, wailing away on an inhibitor tower on the top side of the map. Chris has to sit in the mid lane and wave clear as there are minions crashing down into that tower, as well as Dyrus is trying to push that one up for the side of Delta Fox. So pretty much split map here. Decision making from Tempo Storm, they don't necessarily seem to have like one cohesive vision of where they should be or how they're going to be coming back into this one, and Delta Fox are capitalizing.
Yeah, I mean, Delta Fox doing a good job rotating between lanes right now. They look like they're going to go down to the mid lane. Choose not to do that. Keep the top lane pushed up. Chris has to go down to this bot side to deal with that. We talk about how important the bot inhibitor is. It's, especially with a Baron buff coming up, it just instantly creates free pressure for your team. And Delta Fox, with all that pressure, has complete control on the top side here. Looking like they might try and start off with this Baron. Yep, they're going to try and force this one down before Tempo Storm can react.
All these marksmen with their hopping and skipping and jumping abilities get over the wall as Shiptur just playing zoning duties, but nobody from Tempo Storm is even in the area to try to contest this one. Second Baron of the game goes down at about 20.5 minutes for Delta Fox.
Delta Fox gold lead also has grown all the way up to an 8,000 gold lead now, continuing to keep this pressure up. A really great game out of them so far. They've done a really good job of just dealing with split map kind of plays where if Tempo Storm wants to send someone down to deal with Dyrus, they're almost always sending people to go join up with Imaqtpie and Shiptur, or those two guys on their own going to make a play and making sure that they punish any aggression out of Tempo Storm. And right now, looking pretty good overall. That bottom inhibitor will be respawning soon. They can, of course, continue to split up Tempo Storm and try and find opportunity as we see Shiptur going maybe a little crazy for a flash hook.
Ooh, but a flash followed by Scarra locks down onto Sheep. Not the target they really want to go for, but he does wind up fearing down onto Selfie. Has to burn the heal. The equalizer comes down, and Sheep's going to wind up falling. Command Shockwave brings two back in, but it's Scarra and Shiptur, so the tanky ones are the ones that get pulled back in. Tier 2 mid lane tower has a couple of Baron buff minions, and the rest of Delta Fox wailing away on that, and that will go down.
A really, really aggressive engager on the side of Delta Fox. Both Scarra and Shiptur blowing their flashes to kick that fight off. It's one of those engages that I was cautioning against the fact that they have so much disengage available, but Reven was not involved in that fight, Quas was not involved in that fight, so even though Selfie was able to live for a long time and drop a lot of damage while kiting that one out, ultimately there was no backup coming, and they're able to focus off onto Sheep and finish him down, grabbing their mid inner turret as well.
So Delta Fox, Baron buffed up, going to be pushing on to the mid lane. There's a cupcake line though, so it's a little bit difficult to try to get that one through. Dyrus, meanwhile, utilizing his Baron buff to push up the top wave for them to be able to rotate over to. Bottom lane inhibitor has respawned though, so there's no longer super minions threatening down upon Nexus towers on the bottom side of the map for Delta Fox. They'll have to potentially rotate around and take that open inhibitor if they so choose to. They still have a minute and a half of this Baron buff though, so Tempo Storm got a little ways to go to weather this storm from Delta Fox before even thinking about pushing back out on the map.
Nope, definitely going to be on the back foot for quite a while here. They're going to have this 1-3-1 setup. Voyboy, as the Lucian, going to go work down on that bot inhibitor on his own. The three-man core going to try and keep this pressed up while Dyrus focuses down the top side. And as annoying as that trap line is on the side for Delta Fox to try and find an opening around the mid lane, you can just ignore it in the side lanes. And there you see Voyboy does not need to worry about a big trap line because they're going for this 1-3-1 lane setup.
Yep, this is the Lucian himself, wailing away on the tower. Scar kind of playing zoning duties between the mid lane and the bot lane here. Able to just at a moment's notice leap down onto somebody who tries to get caught out between these two lanes. Dyrus pushing up on the top side of the map. So it's an interesting kind of 1-2.5-1 split push going on for the side of Delta Fox.
I just call it the 1-3-1. You always move around between the lanes whenever you're in this setup. If you're sitting with just your 3 in mid, you're not quite playing it right. You want to rotate up to those side lanes and try and get small little advantages given the fact that you have all 3 lanes pushing at the same time. They have to deal with minion waves while you're able to kind of dance back and forth between the two. You try and find your opening, and so far, Delta Fox has done an all right job. You see the mid turret getting low, top turret down to half as Voyboy also works in the bot inhibitor.
Meanwhile, they've rotated up. They tried to attack down on the Quas. The rest of Tempo Storm is going to come up here as well. Voyboy's been able to take down the inhibitor on the bottom side of the map. This top tower is actually taking a ton of damage here. Imaqtpie hop, skipping, and jumping on this Kalista with his martial pose, trying to get as much damage as possible as Voyboy from the bottom side, still kind of pushing that one up. There will be super minions meeting up with him in about a minute. The Baron buff has worn off, and actually Command Shockwave being used just on Scarra here by Selfie, trying to get himself just a solo kill, but Scarra's going to wind up using the ultimate to leap over the wall to safety. Now no Command Shockwave is available. Delta Fox feels A-okay to kind of walk onto the trap line and try to tank up the tower. Sheep gets hooked in. He utilizes the Braum ultimate just to try to disengage. Hero's entrance signifies Delta Fox's exit, and they're going to just continue to kind of poke away on this tower.
Yeah, the really annoying thing about a Kalista in a situation like this is her build path heavily prioritizes lifesteal, and when you have that, you can walk in the turret range, use a ton of tools to, or take a ton of damage to tank the turret and trade some back, and then just lifesteal off the next minion wave. And one thing we didn't talk about quite on the side of Team Tempo Storm is that their initiation actually is not very strong. They don't have anyone who goes in initiative. We talk about always wanting to pair Galio with another dive buddy. I mean, you do have the Rek'Sai, but if he doesn't have the Orianna ball with him, as we see time and time again, Selfie not super grouped up with the rest of his team, they actually don't have a big initiation threat. And so you see Delta Fox playing really far up into Tempo Storm's face, and overall it is very hard for them to find an opening and really force them off these turrets, because while you have the 3-man on the top side, Orianna stuck in the mid lane dealing with Scarra, and Voyboy is working on his own this entire time.
It's Tempo Storm hard pressed here to get themselves out of their own base. The Baron buff has been gone for a couple of minutes now, but they still have yet to kind of leave their own walls. So now this tower chunked down so low that if anybody sneezed on it would basically fall, but Imaqtpie and Shiptur playing this one a little bit more cautiously. Shiptur was tanking it up while Imaqtpie was getting some damage down on it, so they don't want to have somebody collapse down and pick up a kill onto the Blitzcrank. 4 members here from the side of Tempo Storm will come to kind of group up with this one, but now Delta Fox is grouped up as well. The Equalizer was laid down. The tower just gets sneezed on and it falls down as Imaqtpie is going to get exhausted. Has to burn the flash to get away. Quas trying to leap forward, gets a nice flash taunt on the multiple members of Delta Fox, but now Voyboy and Scarra have joined the fray, and everybody from Tempo Storm wishes that they could run away. Double kill picked up there by Scarra. Another one goes over to Imaqtpie as he's going to hop, skip, and jump forward onto Selfie, but they re-engaged that onto the inhibitor tower. Delta Fox have basically wiped out Tempo Storm from their own base.
A really nice ultimate out of Selfie, but it's just too little, too late. You see the side of Delta Fox able to sustain up. They have the Ocean Dragon, and they have a lot of lifesteal available to them. They grab their second inhibitor of the game up on that top side, and they grab their first Nexus turret. They're going to close out right now.
They already have the super minions from Voyboy still pushing on the bot side. The Nexus is exposed, and it's only Selfie left alive. Delta Fox is going to take another game off of the top-tier Challenger Series team as they take down Tempo Storm in game number 1.
And a really great game overall out of Imaqtpie. You know, kind of the last game that he's going to get, last series he's going to be able to get to play in the Challenger Series, has a monster performance on the Kalista. Him and Shiptur combined together to really take that game over, grabbing that turret after they had kind of lost around the mid lane, and Dyrus also getting a kill up on the top side. Both side lanes doing super well on the side of Delta Fox.
Yeah, and Delta Fox in general just kind of seemed like they realized what they were stronger at this game, which is kind of going for these kind of scrappy engagements. And even though they gave over a very powerful team fight composition to Tempo Storm didn't really look like they knew how to work around with it, especially in the earlier stages of the game, where we constantly say, oh, this is where Delta Fox needs to get leads, this is where they need to push advantages. They finally were able to get those advantages, and they transitioned them extremely well this game.
And I gotta say, on the side of Tempo Storm, they did struggle a little bit. You saw multiple roams going down to the Rumble lane, who was super far pushed up, and even though they were able to get a flash once and they kill another time, there was never a wave that they could work with to really start grabbing some more turrets. And during that time, Delta Fox is making plays on the flip side. You wonder if it would have been better if Selfie had chosen to roam down to the side that the dual lane was on, and then have the Galio teleport in and force a 5v5 with their stronger team comp, where they have a really strong front line. Even though, you know, Reven was pretty far behind this game, at the very least the Orianna is very strong, and you can try and force around there. Instead, they keep staying split up in all these fights, and that allows Delta Fox to stall out after they had really fallen pretty far behind the mid lane.
Yeah, and even after that, even though they weren't able to really transition the advantage from the mid lane into the bottom side of the map, they moved their bottom lane up into the top side of the map to try to match what Delta Fox was doing. And even then, Selfie didn't roam up to that top side of the map, and it actually wound up being an opening window for Delta Fox to actually take a fight for themselves around the Baron pit area, just in the nick of time for Baron to spawn. So they were able to transition that basically, I think it was a 4-for-0 fight around the Baron pit into a Baron that they were able to utilize to get multiple map.
Well, this comes right after Selfie had used his flash trying to make his own play, and that's the danger of using your flash aggressively as one of the most important members of the back line, is that now you're open to initiations from the other team. And Shiptur spots the opening, is able to land the hook onto Selfie. He gets blown up right away through the Galio ultimate, and then it's just a bunch of fat frontliners who, you know, despite the fact that they take a while to get burned down, they have no one else dealing damage to the side of Delta Fox, and they get focused down one by one, as well as the fact that you mentioned they have these Blade of the Rune King power spikes. They're basically as strong as they're going to be in this kind of early mid game on the side of Delta Fox. Tempo Storm lose a fight, and they lose it at the worst possible time in the worst position, right as Baron spawns, and that is the big catalyst for Delta Fox to start grabbing their lead back, because Off of this, they grab a couple more turrets, and then next thing you know, it's a 5,000 gold lead.
Yeah, and there were a couple of push and pull fights very similar to this one where Tempo Storm just kind of wasn't all grouped up at the right point in time. Maybe they didn't have summoner spells available, or they're utilizing ultimates to try to catch people out and wasn't successful. And then Delta Fox kind of gets them in these scrappy situations. We saw multiple flashes burn in the mid lane towards the end of that game just to pick up 2 kills from Scarra and Shiptur to try to force them back into their own base. And at that point in time, Tempo Storm, I think they spent like between 20 minutes to the end of the game, well, not 20 minutes, maybe like 23 minutes to the end of that game inside the walls of their own base. They just could not leave.
And it was a really good job, too, out of Voyboy, kind of bouncing back after getting shut down really hard in the early game. Realizes that he can't 1v1 the Orianna anymore, doesn't even bother trying to do that, basically goes into full split push mode while the whole team decides to go into this 1-3-1 setup. No one ever extends so far that they get completely caught out of position with nothing to gain on the other side of the map. So a really well-coordinated effort out of the entirety of Delta Fox, this time mostly off the back of Shiptur and Imaqtpie stepping up.
Yeah, they're able to take a game 1 victory here off of Tempo Storm, who's the 3rd place team in the Challenger Series. So we're headed for a break. When we come back, we'll take a look at game 2 of Tempo Storm versus Delta Fox. Don't go anywhere. The NA Challenger Series returns in just a few minutes. A flash followed by a flash up there from Wiggily, and first blood going over against Voyboy in the mid lane. Now Scarra kind of left on his lonesome, some flashes over the wall, but Wiggily unburrows and goes on a killing spree. Voyboy couldn't close the gap. His health bar too low. Flash forward from Selfie secures a kill. Ooh, the flash knockup coming in as well. The hook to follow, and Imaqtpie picks up a kill onto Reven. Wiggly's already pretty much out of the fight. The Braum comes in, tries to knock everybody else up. They got the damage down onto Scarra, but Voyboy's going to wind up shutting down the Rek'Sai. The Galio's hero's entrance is used, but this is going to be a massacre in favor of Delta Fox. Just obliterating Tempo Storm. It's a 4 for none. But now Voyboy and Scarra join the fray, and everybody from Tempo Storm wishes that they could run away. Double kill picked up there by Scarra. Another one goes over to Imaqtpie as he's going to hop, skip, and jump forward onto Selfie. Delta Fox have basically wiped out Tempo Storm from their own base.